Hello and welcome to The Skip Life, where we ask the question, can an aging, talentless scrub of a driver like myself actually improve at iRacing? So if this past season was any indicator, the answer is clearly no. But there's some reasons why this season kind of went off the rails for me. For starters, I participated in last year's Week 13, which completely tanked my iRating. My safety rating dropped to like 1700. I actually went down a full license class and started this season off in Division 4, where typically I'm an A driver in Division 2. This season I've been stuck in Division 4 as a B driver. And I also really didn't participate for the first half of the season through December and the first half of January. I really wasn't racing hardly at all. I was just insanely busy at work, just in full survival mode at work, probably the busiest Christmas peak we've had in 10 years. So iRacing was kind of the furthest thing from my mind over that Christmas season, and then I started these videos off a few weeks ago to kind of analyze my races, but starting the season off with really no momentum midway through. So this was Oulton Park. It's another one of my favorite tracks, and I tend to prefer tracks that are sort of carved out of the landscape and have an almost country road type feel to them, and this certainly fits the bill. It's also quite fast and flowing, and is only really broken up by that one hairpin turn at the bottom of the hill. And the only thing I don't like about this particular layout, because I think there's like 8 different layouts for this track, is just the entry down into that hairpin has a little bit of a kink in the road where it really should be straight, and kind of makes it quite awkward to set up for. So just taking a look at race number 1 now. I did manage to get 4 races in that week, but for some reason I forgot to record the final race, which is unfortunate because there were some things in particular that I wanted to talk about with that last race. I think it was my most competitive of the week. It just would have been a lot easier to have the footage to talk about it. But I'm sure I'll make those mistakes again, so I'm sure we'll have that situation repeat itself, and I could talk about that in the future. I was mostly just getting tight under pressure. Now coming down here, I misjudged the braking, either that or he braked early and gave him a nudge. Luckily I got the short end of the stick though and didn't punt him off the road. That is the worst feeling, right before or the moment you realize you're going to punt someone right off the road. We're 3 wide down here on the straight. Now 2 wide, and the car on the inside is going to wisely back off as we're still on cold tires. Just getting just the little twitch there to save the car, as through that turn it often gets loose, especially when the tires are cold. As the tires warm up, you can take that turn more and more aggressively. So through here you almost need to imagine where the second apex is. That car on my left getting loose. If you don't look as far to the right as possible, you tend to understeer through there, and I was very surprised at how well the front tires gripped through there on lap 1. Last turn over the crest is second gear. With the exception of the hairpin, it's a very fast flowing track. When they shorten the circuits like this, it definitely keeps the cars closer together and gives them less chance to sort of spread out. So it probably does make the racing better. So just watch as coming down through the hairpin on exit, I just don't set up the turn correctly or set up the exit properly. I should be feathering the brake a little bit longer, but you can almost hear that I'm on the gas a little too early, and the car is forced out wide. Front tires just not gripping, and lost quite a bit of time there. So just keeping to the inside on turn 1, I'm able to get a run at the car in front and close some distance. And this turn feels very off camber. It's quite tricky. Now coming down here, I'm gonna almost overrun or overshoot him. And because of that, I actually get passed on the inside. Luckily there was no contact there though. Unlike the previous car, this guy is gonna go for the pass on the inside, and we both do well to not screw it up. I actually was concerned that him being on the inside would force me out wide onto the grass, but I judge it just right. Still able to keep some speed, so not too detrimental to my lap time. So skipping ahead a lap and I get loose in that exact same section. It just shows how easy it is if you don't look all the way through the corner and set up that turn. How you can just get forced wide and almost hit the grass. And at that speed, if you do go on the grass, it's pretty bad. In turn 1, I was using the yellow sign on the left as my braking marker or turn-in marker. And if you can cut the inside curb slightly, get your tires on that inside red curbing, it's typically faster and less chance of an off track on the left. Managed to cut the distance to the cars in front. I believe they're bunching each other up a little bit. And I'm gonna get a run at the car ahead after the hairpin, but not quite able to pull anything off as they just are able to use the draft a little bit more than I am. And as he pulls into the slipstream on the left, you can just see how much more speed they end up carrying down the straight. Yeah, even though I get a better exit on the corner, the draft effect is quite strong on this car. This car on the inside gets loose, and it looked like he was going to pull in front of me, but he managed to save it and keep it straight, so good on him. Now with those two cars ahead having to go too wide through turn 1, I'm able to carry more speed, get a run at them, and set up for a pass at the bottom of the hill through the hairpin. And I pull off probably one of the best passes I've done all season. Now, initially, what's going through my mind here is I'm going to go for this pass no matter what. And then as I've decided to commit, all I can think of is how horribly it's going to go. And I'm just going to overshoot the turn, get the braking wrong, and kill both of those guys. Luckily, though, I pulled off the braking, managed to judge it just perfectly. The inside right did lock up briefly for a split second. But that's what makes racing exciting, just not knowing what's going to happen. And in the replay, it doesn't even look that bad. Doesn't really look that risky at all. And let's just watch the inside front right tire. And it just locked up briefly. And now if it locks up completely, that's when you end up going straight, overshooting the turn. At this point in the race, I was racing 3 other guys, and one of them in particular was the fastest of all 4 of us, and he just goes full attack on me almost immediately after I pulled off that pass. I think he was behind the other 2 cars, made his way through them, and then came after me, and I'm forced to let him by. So I have a look up the outside here, but just go a little too wide. Almost kill myself on the grass. This track does feel very narrow when you get alongside other cars. I would have had to keep my car tucked really close into his to get by there. Here at The Skip Life, we aim to be both honest and transparent with all interactions with other drivers. That being said, I honestly did not perceive this accident as being my fault at the time. And that's because as I'm coming down and we're going towards this left-hand turn, it looked to me like he was getting loose, and then I ended up hitting him once he lost control. On further inspection though, that's not actually what happened. it looked like I gave him a nudge, and then he lost control. I really didn't think I hit him though, because at the top of the screen there was no contact warning. Typically you get a 1x or a 0x if you hit another car, and I didn't see anything until the second contact that did the damage. This was when I took a look at... Yeah, that looks like a nudge. I did apologize, and in race 4, the one I failed to record, I did give him a free pass for that mistake, just having that in mind. But I think he accepted my apology at least. Some people give you the FU and they give you the old FU and then they leave. So there really wasn't a huge amount to talk about with race number 3. I do remember having a pretty exciting opening couple laps, and after that the race was kind of boring. I think a lot more happened in race number 4 that I would probably want to talk about. So right here I am in full attack mode for the first lap, and my opening laps have gotten a lot better in the last few seasons. I distinctly remember in previous years that I would just be very timid in the opening laps and just get bullied and pushed out of the way and just passed by a lot of people, and that does occasionally happen. Kept a very tight, nice line in the inside there. That does occasionally happen to me if I'm just in the wrong frame of mind, but most of the time it's been a lot better this season and in the last few seasons as well. Pulling it behind the slipstream here. Car didn't really get loose there. That's pretty good. It must have taken a perfect line. And I must have learned from the last, from race number 1, because here, although I do get on the grass, I'm a little better with the steering, a little more precise, and I'm able to pull a pass on the outside of that turn. And yeah, I was... looks like I qualified pretty far back, but I ended up having a really good lap 1, and I guess this was probably a pretty decent race. I don't remember what my final position was, but still in attack mode here. Let's just see what happens on lap 2. Turning into the yellow. Do I clip the curb? Not quite. Car gets a little wobble on the curbing. Apparently in the real track there's some sort of laser marker, or if you drive over the track you get a penalty or a... Oh! Had to go way wide there. Didn't have to, but maybe overreacted to that car on the inside getting loose. Blue car gets by me, and then I think I'm going to get that position back within this lap. Whoa, he got massively loose there. I went quite a bit wide. I'm not sure if that was intentional. On the outside now. Too wide. Oh, that is so close. And I think I'm going to pull off this pass. Yeah, I think I held that. And that was most of the action of the race was in the first couple laps. A little bit of a moment in the center of the turn. And it looks like I completed that pass, got the job done. He only got past me because of that mistake going on the grass anyhow. Nice line through there over the crest. You want to be far right through that second hand final turn. And again, using the yellow as a reference on the left to turn in. Do I get on the curbing? Not quite. You can cut the curb a little more than I'm doing here. And this would be lap 3. So between the middle of lap 3 going to lap 4, the tires are starting to feel a lot better. Let's see what happens down into the hairpin. That section heading down into the hairpin is the only part of the track I don't like, because I really feel like there should be I feel like the track should be straighter to allow you to set up on the left. This is just a replay of that pass on the outside. So after this track, we have Catalunya and then a version of Silverstone, the new track, in the next 2 weeks. And I don't like either one of those tracks. This one was a lot better. I sort of felt like I was kind of losing my motivation to race after this week. Wasn't really feeling it for those 2 tracks. But I did manage to get 3 races in on each, and there'll be videos for both. I might condense them into one video, and I will definitely have a look at what happened on those tracks as well. So we'll see you next time. Those are my results for the week, and that is it.